Okay, today we are going to talk about adding and subtracting radical expressions. The phrase you're going to hear me say a lot is like radicals. You can combine like radicals. A like radical has the same index and the same radicand. So remember, if we have the nth root of a, n is the index, and a is the radicand. As long as the index and the radicand match, you can add the coefficients together. So take a look at this example. We have 2 times the square root of 3 plus 5 times the square root of 3. Do you all agree that square root of 3 and square root of 3 are the same? So this thing is really kind of like saying 2x plus 5x is 7x. But instead of those x's being x, they are going to be square roots of 3. 2 times the square root of 3 plus 5 times the square root of 3. 2 plus 5 is 7. So 7 times the square root of 3. So on each of these examples, I want you to match up the like radicals. So number 1, 3 times the square root of 2. Do you see any other square roots of 2? At the end, we've got negative 2 square root of 2. So 3 and negative 2. What is 3 minus 2? What is 3 minus 2? 1. Woo! Here we go.
It's not Monday, but it's Monday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday that definitely feels like a Monday. Because we didn't have school again yesterday. Not bitter. Not bitter. Okay. 2 times the square root of 3. Are there any other square roots of 3?
Yeah, 3.
Right here. So we add the coefficients. 2 plus 3 is?
6.
5 square root of 3. I'm really regretting recording in this class right now.
Hey, you told us to talk
And then
dumb.
we've got plus the square root of 5. So our answer is the square root of 2 plus 5 times the square root of 3 plus the square root of 5. Number 2, we've got cube roots of x. We have 3 cube root of x plus 2 cube root of x. 5 cube root of x. I think I need to pause the video for a second. Okay, we're good now. Then we have square root of x minus 8 square root of x. What number is in front of this square root of x? A 1. And 1 minus 8 is negative 7 square root of x. I would like you to try number 3 on your own. If you're watching the video, pause the video, try number 3 on your own, and then click play to continue. You match up the 4th roots of 5. You've got 1 and 3, so that makes 4. No, go back. I'm not done explaining. And you've got negative 6, 4th root of 13, negative 1 times the 4th root of 13, negative 6, and negative 1 is negative 7. All right. On example 1, we need to simplify the radicals and then combine like radicals. So the first thing we need to do is take 3 times the square root of 48, and we need to simplify that piece. Then we will need to take the square root of 27 and simplify that term, and then we'll put them back together. So square root of 48. What can we split the square root of 48 into? Remember, our perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. I think that should be enough. I think 4 works. Anytime 4 works, helpful hint, check 16.
16 works.
Because if 4 works, 16 often also works. You can split 48 into 16 times 3. Don't forget that you still have a 3 in front of all of this. The square root of 16 is 4. So we have 3 times 4 times the square root of 3. What is 3 times 4? 12. So we have 12 times the square root of 3. Now let's simplify the square root of 27. We need to split the square root of 27 into the square root of a perfect square times the square root of something else. 9 and 3. The square root of 9 is 3. So we have 3 times the square root of 3. What symbol was between these in the original problem? Subtraction. Now, do you see how they both have the square root of 3 on them? So we can do 12 minus 3. 9. Square root of 3. Okay, we need to take 5 times the square root of 9 times the square root of y and simplify that term. What is the square root of 9? 3. So this is 5 times 3 times the square root of y, which is 15 times the square root of y. This one doesn't really need to be simplified at all. So we have minus 3 square root of y. 15 minus 3 is 12 square root of y. If you hear random laughing in the background, I apologize. My class is in a mood.
One today.
They're in a mood today. They're definitely in a mood. Okay. Next example. We have 7 square root of 80 square root of x. I want you to simplify the square root of 80. A lot of people attempt to split 80 into 8 times 10, but 8 is not a perfect square, 10 is not a perfect square. So let's instead split it into 16 times 5.
Is that 80?
Yes, 16 times 5 is 80.
I'll take your word.
Okay. Don't forget there's a 7 in front. Don't forget there's also a square root of x. So I'm trying to keep everything on the same line so I don't lose anything. The square root of 16 is 4. So once we have all of this stuff, 7 times 4 is 28. And then the square root of 5, square root of x, those can be combined under the same radical. 28 times the square root of 5x. I want you, on your own, to try to simplify 2 times the square root of 125 times the square root of x. Pause the video, try this problem on your own. Now, as you're doing the second term is usually easier to simplify because you have some hints. In the first term, I knew that I wanted the square root of 5x to be left under the radical. So when I'm trying to think about how to split up 125, I might try 125 divided by 5 and then see that, oh, hey, 25 is a perfect square. That helps me out quite a bit. So we end up with 28 times the square root of 5x minus 10 times the square root of 5x. So our final answer is 18 times the square root of 5x. Okay, B. The biggest problem with B is that it requires some space, and there's not a ton of space on this tiny little slide. So we have, let's see. Honestly, I'm going to do it like this. What is the square root of 24? We need to simplify the square root of 24. 6 and 4, but those two numbers, 4 is a perfect square. So we got 2 times the square root of 6. So the square root of 24 is 2 times the square root of 6. So this term right here, we've got 6 times 2 times the square root of 6 over, what is the square root of x to the 4th? How many groups of 2 are there in 4? So we just have x squared on the bottom. Do you see where all of these pieces came from? Basically, this square root of 24 became this part right there. Okay? All right, now over here, square root of 54. Let's do that one. I really want there to be a square root of 6. 6 times 9. and the square root of 9 is 3. So this thing is 3 times the square root of 6. So we have 3 times 3 square root of 6 over the square root of x to the 4th is x squared. Now you can just multiply those things together. 6 times 2 is 12. And 9. And here's the really interesting part about this. Do you see how this part is the same on both of them? So 12 minus 9, what's 12 minus 9?
3.
3. Our final answer is 3 square root of 6 over x squared.
Oh, okay.
So because the square root of 6 over x squared is the same on both of them, you can do 12 minus 9 to get 3, and then put that stuff with it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do example 3b because it looks more complicated. And if we do the most complicated one, then we should be good, right? So ignore example A. If you want to use some of the space in example A to do this problem so you can be nice and spread out, that would work. In B, we have the square root of 48 and the square root of x to the 5th. Let's think about how to split up 48.
Oh.
8, no. Is it 16? Yeah. Square root of 16 times the square root of 3. The square root of 16 is 4. Square root of x to the 5th. If you have 5, how many groups of 2 are in 5? 2 full groups, so x squared, and 1 left over still under the radical. That combines into 4x squared square root of 3x. So it's really like we're doing this. We've got 3 separate problems that we need to simplify, and then we'll see what the answers look like once we have them all simplified. The next one, we have 2x square root of 27 square root of x to the 3rd. Take a moment and see if you can simplify all those little pieces and get it down to just one term written here. Pause the video, pause it, pause it, pause it. Okay, so the square root of 27 splits into square root of 9 times square root of 3, which is 3 times the square root of 3, and you still have that 2x in front of it. Square root of x to the 3rd, there's 1 full group with 1 left over. The difficult thing about this term is getting all of these pieces put together into just one term. So for numbers, we've got 2 times 3, which is 6. We've got x times another x, so that'd be x squared. And then there's square root of 3x. Do you notice anything really nice about the last term?
It's 3x.
It's 3x squared square root of 3x. We don't have to do anything. And the symbols, put the symbols down below. Between the first 2 was plus, between the second 2 was minus. Okay, because x squared square root of 3x is the same on all of these, really all we have to do is 4 plus 6 minus 3, which is 7. So 7, x squared square root of 3x. That is our final answer. On your assignment, we're going to change this a little bit to make it 8 problems instead of 10. I'd like you to do number 12, number 14, number 22, and then 26 through 34 evens. So I eliminated 2 problems out of the set, so you only have 8 to do.